I'd like to call the village board meeting for Tuesday, April 15th to order. Roll call, please.
President Kardasky.
Here.
Trustee Service.
Here.
Trustee Paul.
Here.
Trustee Zerbal.
Here.
Trustee Atkinson.
Here.
Trustee Krieger.
Here.
And Trustee Flukie.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Motion carried. Number 5, action on the minutes of the March 25th, 2025 village board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda. Must state your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. The board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and the board is not able to take action at this meeting. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to talk on any items not on tonight's agenda? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jamie Wall. I live at 1241 Law Street in the city of Green Bay. I'm here because I was elected to the state senate back in November, took office in January for a district that includes all of Ashwaubenon, LOA, Bellevue, and De Pere, most of Green Bay, and a little bit of Rockland and Ledgeview to the south. I'm trying to make the rounds of all of my municipalities and school boards to introduce myself. You guys are where the rubber meets the road, and there's obviously has to be cooperation between state government and the local governments around the district. My door is open. I think I've handed out business cards to most of the folks in the room. It seems like I can barely leave the house without running into Mary, but some of the rest of you I haven't had as much of a chance to interact with. You were gracious enough to host one of my budget listening sessions here with Representative Spouty a few weeks ago. Last week, I think it was, I had a chance to tour Ashwaubenon High School and talk to some of the school district administration there about the issues they face, and they told me about the great sort of cooperation they had between themselves and the village to build things like the municipal pool, which you folks were able to do at a cheaper cost than they were able to because of the ways that the state aid system works for them. So that was a great example of different kinds of local units of government working together to save the taxpayers' money, so I commend you for that. I knocked on an awful lot of doors over the course of the campaign last year, including in Ashwaubenon. One of the things I heard a lot about was housing costs and housing availability. So it's not entirely a coincidence that I serve in the Senate Housing Committee, so we're working on a number of things to make it easier to build new housing stock in the community of all sorts. I think the village has been doing a pretty decent job of it. If you drive up and down Holmgren, you can see, or up and down Broadway in certain parts of it, you can see new multifamily units going up. I know you're not quite landlocked, but I mean, you still have some undeveloped area in the southwest part of the village. I walked through some of those cul-de-sacs with the bulldozer at the other end of the street, but keep up the good work. I mean, my constituents have certainly noticed that house prices are going up if you're trying to afford that first house, or if you're trying to pay your rent, which is going up with the cost of housing around you. That's definitely one need I heard, and you guys have much more to say about what kind of housing gets built where than the state does, but that's one area that I'd very much want to work in partnership with people around the district here. So I think that's about it. I won't take any more of your time. Thanks for indulging me here. I've got another engagement in an hour or so, but I'll hang out and watch the rest of the meeting and see how you run through your paces here. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie. We've had several meetings, Jamie and I have, and we do run into each other every now and then. So thanks for coming and introducing yourself. Okay, anybody else have any comments on items not on tonight's agenda? Okay, moving on. 7, written communications or announcements. I have none. Moving on. Number 8, action on the consent agenda. A, consider, discuss, act on temporary alcohol license premise extension for Margaritas of Wisconsin, Inc., DBA Margaritas. B, consider, discuss, act on temporary alcohol license premise extension for Red Lobster Hospitality, LLC, DBA Red Lobster number 155. C, consider, discuss, act on a temporary alcohol premise extension at Blazin' Wings, Inc., DBA Buffalo Wild Wings. D, consider, discuss, act on Resolution R 4-2-2025 to permit the sale of fermented malt beverages in Ashwaubomay Park for the 2025 Ashwaubomay Food Truck Rallies and the Ashwaubenon Blast. E, consider, discuss, act on committee appointments for May 2025 through April 2026. F, consider, discuss, act on the budgeted expenditures for periods between 3/21/2025 to 4/10/2025. G, receive and accept March 2025 investment reports. H, receive, accept March 2025 financial reports. And I, receive, accept April 2025 Public Works Department report. I need a motion to approve unless somebody would like anything taken out.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Action items 9A, consider, discuss, act on authorizing Ashwaubomay Lake to purchase a MobiChair floating beach wheelchair for patron use. Mel?
Good evening. So I'm here tonight to talk about the purchase of a MobiMat wheelchair that would allow guests to Ashwaubomay Lake to not only move around freely throughout the beach, but also enter the water with this wheelchair. In 2020, we bought the MobiMat in general, which is like a mat that runs from the entrance of the chalet out into the lake. It's just a wheelchair accessible mat. It's got two little kind of jut offs that come off that allow people with mobility issues or in wheelchairs to access the beach. This would kind of be that next extension of it. Well, they would be able to then use this wheelchair on the sand, and then it would also go into the water. So I was contacted by Options for Independent Living, and we've worked together. They had some grant money left over, and so this was kind of my next purchase that I really wanted for the lake to make it more accessible for anybody to use. It didn't cover the full cost of it, so I reached out to the Lions, and they are so very generous, and they agreed to pay for the remaining portion of that wheelchair. So I did attach some pictures of what I'm looking to purchase, and I'm just bringing this to you guys to see any thoughts or ideas or comments, if I was good to go on that purchase so we could have it for this summer.
You know, we do have such great giving groups in the village of Ashwaubenon. You know, the Lions Club, they always donate to us, and it's a great organization, so.
They had actually, the MobiMat in general, that was a full purchase from the Lions as well. They have been so gracious out at the lake, so I really appreciate them.
I'll move to authorize Ashwaubomay Lake to purchase the MobiChair floating beach wheelchair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the purchase of a MobiChair floating beach wheelchair. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 9B, consider, discuss, act on banking services contract award. Greg Wenholz.
Thank you. So going back 2 years from about almost this exact time, we came to the board to extend our existing banking services contract with Associated Bank at the time. And it was brought up, finance personnel recommended, discussed, and then approved, and board as well, to the next time that contract came up, we should really do a banking services RFP. So 2 years ago went by pretty quick, and here we are. So on March 6th of this year, I put out a banking services RFP. I looked at a bunch of different banks in the community. That's part of the requirement in our investment policy. You have to have at least a presence in the village. I looked at bank size. I looked at some of the financials, some of the ratings that they have, and I came up with a list I thought would be able to handle our business and our size. Sent the RFP to Associated Bank, BMO Bank, Capital Credit Union, Chase Bank, Fox Communities Credit Union, Nicolay Bank, Nicolay National, and then U.S. Bank. They were due by March 21st. We received 4 bids from Associated, Capital Credit Union, Fox Communities Credit Union, and Nicolay National. All of them did a great job submitting their bids and answering and reviewing the needs that we had put into that RFP. As far as scoring goes, we had 7 main criteria in what we were looking for. Comprehensiveness of services, the public sector experience, strength and stability of the financial institution, the relationship team, charges for service / interest, kind of the net to the village, service enhancement ideas, and then other factors that may have presented themselves, and they were scored. The highest was the services and interest. That's the highest possible score. So Sherry Halston, who's the Assistant Finance Director Accountant, and I are the 2 that reviewed all the bids. We reviewed them independently so that we were unbiased, and we graded on our own. We scored our own methodology, we scored on our own. And then we came together and discussed and put an average score together. I will say on the charges for services and interest, I did do that to be consistent. We worked together to be consistent scoring on that one. And basically, if you had the lowest fees overall, you would get the highest rated score. And then it was just prorated from there. If you had the highest interest possibilities, you get the highest rated score, and then everything was prorated. So the final scoring, when it came out, is in the list, and Associated came out on top for a number of reasons. Number one, although they weren't the lowest score from fees, the difference between all 4 was about $3,900. The difference on the interest side, and that interest is not just a CD or just a Fed fund rate. There's how you set up your account structures. There's earnings credits that get involved, and everybody has different earnings credits and things like that. But they came up with a plan that would be to maximize our earnings potential, and the difference in the earnings between the 4 bids was $476,000. So it kind of makes the fees not as high as a value in that regard. However, through the whole process, by still selecting Associated, staying with them, we will actually save 78% in fees from what we're paying today. So it's one of those things that this is usually what happens in my experience over the years of when you do bids, the incumbent comes in and they recognize what's going on and they're able to, but part of that was restructuring how we're doing things and coming up with a creative way to basically eliminate the fees, but yet drive up the interest possibilities. All keeping safety, liquidity, and yield as those 3 primary factors for the village. So the recommendation in the final scoring, Associated came out number 1, Nicolay National came out number 2. They were very close. The credit unions did not fare as well for a number of different reasons. One of those is the public sector experience. They don't really have any, and although you may say, well, what does that matter? It does matter in how we do some of our operations and some of the challenges. Associated has a dedicated team. That's all they do is public sector. They don't deal, it's not a merge. Nicolay is trying to get there, but they're not there yet. So they're working towards that goal as well. But overall, the recommendation would be to stay with Associated. We, quite frankly, have no issues with them. I asked my team, we don't have problems. You pick up the phone, you get a person for service, and it's answered relatively quickly within 30 minutes. No issues, no problems. So the recommendation, again, stay with Associated Bank. It'll be a 5-year contract to start. All prices are locked in for the 5 years, and then with the ability to extend in 2-year increments after that if we would so wish to do that.
Greg, we've been with Associated for a number of years, haven't we?
I don't think the village has ever been without Associated or what they used to be called before they were Associated.
Yeah, I remember them for a long time. Was Nicolay second, you said?
Yes.
Okay. And they were close but not competitive to what we're in need of.
Right. The fees, I think, were off maybe $1,000, but the interest was very close. And just don't have quite the full experience. The school district did go with them. The school district bid it out, but they're a little bit different in how they do some of their short-term cash needs. So I did talk to Keith Lucius over there and asked him, but they just started changing in January, so they can't really give a fears. I can't give you any kind of recommendation at this point. It's too early.
Well, Associated has been doing a good job. I'll recommend that you go with Associated Bank as a recommendation, as a motion.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to direct staff to finalize a 5-year contract to be approved by Village Board in May 2025.
I do have one question, Greg, since they are within the village. What was your reason why PCM? Didn't, I'm sure there's financial reasons. I just want to kind of state it for the record.
They're not, their bank size is significantly lower than others.
Right.
And they're really more of a specialty credit union, if you will.
Yep.
You know, if you look at Capital Fox Communities, they've really branched off into more corporate and more, other than just members tied to a business
Yep.
type of credit union.
Yeah, totally get it. I just wanted to be stated for the record since they were within the village.
Right, I agree.
So,
Craig, can I ask a quick question? So when's the last time we did an RFP for banking services?
It was in 2010 or 2012. It was 2010 because it was Rosemary was still here. Yeah.
And so we had a 78% decrease in our fees from that contract, correct? Or is,
No, it would be from what we're currently paying today.
okay.
Right.
So this is a 5-year contract with extension for 2 years, you said, if we care to go there. With the savings that we had, do you anticipate maybe going with a shorter contract and getting more savings? Or why was there such great savings on this contract?
Yeah, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say deceptive, but it's one line item in there. So by restructuring how our accounts are set up, we were able to eliminate a pass-through FDIC charge. And that was the one line that was significantly higher. All the other fees were, some were better than one of the other institutions and some were worse. Almost across the board, they were very close. But that one line item, which has been eliminated, was probably 90% of their cost. And so if you would stay with that kind of account structure, where basically we were sweeping everything into one account, and then that account is collateralized, but it's because it's flowing through the FDIC insurance, and you got to pay a fee on that. Okay. We're gonna do something different where we eliminate that one line item. That was the kicker.
Okay, so it was really restructuring, and that's what really saved you a lot of money rather than the fees themselves, I would say.
It eliminated the earnings credit, which an earnings credit, what a bank will tell you is that we'll give you an earnings credit, and basically what that does is it covers the cost of your fees. So they like to say, hey, you don't have any fees. Well, I'm an accountant, I still book the fees. There's still a fee, right? And then the earnings credit is just another form of interest. That's generally at a lower rate. So if you can eliminate that fee and then put all your money against some other kind of invested account, then you generate lower fees and higher interest. And that's kind of how that works.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I'll just add to that too. I think when we set up the RFP for this go around, we set it up with the understanding or the acknowledgement that we were striving for a 5-year commitment in the contract. So by making an adjustment at this point, we may not have received the proposals in the same manner if the contract had only been for 2 or 3 years. So it's something that you would want to take into consideration as you're preparing the RFP as to what that contract length is, because they'll base their proposal based on what you're anticipating to be that contract length.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 9C, consider, discuss, act on the bid award for the Glory Road culvert replacement.
All right. In front of you guys tonight, you have 5 bids that we did open earlier this month, actually last week, for the Glory Road culvert replacement. The project came in at, well, essentially the bids range from $463,000 up all the way up to $557,000. Budget for the project was $575,000. We did receive 5 competitive bids. Like I said, they were all pre-qualified. We're recommending to award this project to Advanced Construction. This culvert is in very, very poor condition and should be replaced this year if we want to continue to keep the road in service.
You done work with them before, Brian?
Yeah, this is the same contractor that did the work on timber last year and did it very satisfactorily.
Okay, move to approve the expenditure for the culvert on Glory Road.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the contract to Advanced Construction for the culvert replacement in the bid amount of $463,763. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 9D, discuss, consider, act on the bid award for the Kimberly Street culvert replacement. Mr. Rickard.
All right, so this is very similar. We did receive 5 bids. This is for the culvert on Kimberly. This is also a waterway that carries water. That existing culvert is 283 feet long. It does actually take a natural stream and it actually puts it in a pipe through various people's backyards. While working through the DNR, they've advised that that culvert should be no longer than needed, so just pretty much the portion that's, under the roadway. So you'll notice that the project budget cost was $650,000. The reason it was $650,000 was assuming that we would need to replace the entire culvert in its entire length, being 283 feet long. However, based on our permitting process with the DNR, they've advised us to only replace the portion that's under the actual roadway itself, which is about 100 feet, so a third of the length, hence a third of the cost approximately. So with that being said, we did receive 3 bids. Bids did range from $198,000 all the way up to $307,000. We are recommending that the culvert gets replaced and the award gets contracted to DeGroot.
Isn't that a place where we had some problems with flooding homes out? Something with debris in the creek, and then we had some backup on the lawns?
Correct. Yeah, it was actually before my time here, but we actually had some icing in one of the ends of the culverts. It was a combination of ice chunks and timber that it's my understanding that it did cause some.
But it was up off of Shady, not
It was up off from Shady, correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Wasn't Kimberly. It was.
It wasn't,
One-
what wasn't this one? All
One
right,
block up from here, but same waterway. Yes.
2 blocks.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Balsam and then Shady.
Yep, 2.
So that 100 feet will take care of it, you said? Rather
Yes, the
than,
100 feet actually will make the water flow better. When you expect water to flow through a pipe, there's, I don't want to get too engineering out, but there's more friction in the water.
Yeah.
So allowing it to open up to a normal, V-bottom ditch actually allows for greater capacity, so there should be less flooding.
Did Steve or anybody understand why that ever got extended like that?
I don't know. We plan to have a public informational meeting, and I'm sure the residents are going to let us know
They might, yeah,
why it's like that.
yeah. Because
Unfortunately,
I have always wondered why it's been like that.
And,
It's
and
never
as
made
an
a lot of sense.
advisement, there may be some dissatisfaction by the residents as a result of that, because they've gone from no stream or ditch in their backyard to a stream ditched area in their rear yards.
Plus, instead of mowing lawn on a flat, they're gonna mow lawn on a hill.
Yeah, or let nature just have it back. So yeah, that's one of the things that the DNR doesn't like to see, essentially waterways like that in a long culvert, longer than needed, just because it does, dissatisfy any sort of, wildlife that wants to travel through that area, because it is so abnormal. Fish swimming through a dark tunnel for 300 feet rather than 100 feet's not normal, so.
is that your area, Jay?
Mine.
Oh, yours, okay, that's what I thought.
It was mine before, but yeah.
Yeah,
now it's
yeah,
Chris's.
okay.
We do plan to, once we have the contractor schedule, we will have a public informational meeting. There's only about 7 residents that are most greatly impacted, or that will be invited. I would say about 5 of them will, I'm sure not be satisfied. But ultimately, we need to get the culvert replaced, and we need to have it permitted through the DNR, so. I don't know the history as to why it was extended. If you actually do walk through that culvert, you can see it was extended. The culvert actually does change shapes halfway through it. So it's almost like they tried to marry 2 different types of culverts together. And there's a big concrete collar that's poured around it, head wall, when you're walking through that culvert, so.
Okay.
I'll move to award the bid to DeGroot Inc. for the Kimberly Street culvert replacement in the amount listed.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bid award for the Kimberly Street culvert replacement to DeGroat in the bid of $198,335.06. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 9E, consider, discuss, act on Village of Ashwaubenon Resolution Number R4-1-25, a resolution disallowing a claim for unlawful taxes by Bellin Memorial Hospital, Inc. Tony?
All right. The proposed resolution in front of you tonight is in response to a claim that Bellin Memorial Hospital filed with the village at the end of January of this year concerning their taxes for tax year 2024. It's for their property located at 933 Wabi Lane. Essentially, their claim is that property should be exempt from taxation because it is a hospital. And as a result, we have unlawfully imposed taxes upon the series of properties listed in the notice of claim that's in the packet. As a result of that, village staff, the assessor, and representatives from our insurance company met to discuss this claim and determined that we disagreed with Bellin's position with respect to their tax exemption under the statute, and therefore that their claim should be denied. So as a result, that's the recommendation tonight, and the resolution just formally takes that action. And then after, presuming depending upon what the outcome of the board decides, then we would notify Bellin as required by the statute as well.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution number R4-1-25, disallowing the claim filed by Bellin Memorial Hospital, Inc.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number R4-1-25, disallowing the claim filed by Bellin Memorial Hospital, Inc. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Why, Aaron, maybe you can answer this. Through the process of building that, was taxation ever brought up in that? Knowing it was a medical center?
It was discussed. There was no indication that when it was being proposed or built that they were going to apply for tax exemption.
Okay. I thought there was something of that nature. Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 10, items for next agenda. That's 5-6 weeks away now. It's not till the end of May. If there's anything that anybody needs on the agenda, give the office a call. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We're done.